How's it going, everyone? So free agency has kind of technically started today. It is currently the legal tampering period where teams are able to negotiate deals with the actual players, but they cannot actually finalize any deals until Wednesday on March 12th, where they can sign it on the paper and officially become members of the teams that they have currently verbal contracts with. So the Packers have dipped into free agency and they were kind of expected to be big players. And so far they've come to two verbal agreements with players, and they're not the positions you would kind of think, or maybe the player you would think. So the first big one that the Packers did sign, this was reported by Ian Rappaport, saying the top guard is off the market. Sources say 49ers guard Aaron Banks is expected to sign with the Packers as QB Jordan Love gets another bodyguard, and tweeted out again saying full terms, it's a 4-year, $77 million deal with a whopping $63 million in the first 3 years in a deal done by Kyle McCarthy and Brian Murphy of Athletes First. And that is a lot of money. So with that signing for our offensive line currently as it looks, means at left tackle, you're going to have Rasheed Walker. Left guard, new signing with Aaron Banks over here. He'll slide into the left guard. Then because Josh Myers has left for free agency, hasn't come with any verbal agreements yet, but that leaves center open. It's expected that Elton Jenkins will slide from left guard to center. Right guard will be Sean Ryan, most likely. And then right tackle, of course, is going to be Zach Tom. Then the question becomes, where does Jordan Morgan kind of fit in all this, considering he was our first round pick last year? So he's going to get a chance to compete for a job, but really, as of right now, the only place he can compete is right guard. So we'll see how the offseason and potentially during the preseason, regular season, how that all plays out. But currently, Jordan Morgan doesn't have a spot, considering Sean Ryan did kind of come on late after Jordan Morgan was lost for the season with that shoulder injury. Now, coming back to Aaron Banks, when he was coming out of college and towards the NFL draft, he came out with a RAS score of 7.19, comes in at a height of 6'5" and weighed 325 pounds. The Packers seemingly are going pretty big and tall in the interior offensive line, and this is kind of going with that trend. Had a vertical jump of 31 inches, broad jump of 8 feet and 4 inches, and a 40-yard dash of 5.34. And then moving along into his PFF scores for his career currently in the NFL. In 2021, he only had 5 offensive snaps, so we're kind of going to disregard that. Then in 2022, played 1,100 plus snaps, had a 59.5 offensive grade, 57.2 run block grade, and a 61 pass blocking grade. Allowed 2 sacks, 4 hits, and 29 hurries. Then in 2023, just played over 1,000 snaps, had a 52.8 offensive grade, so kind of went down. Run block grade 55.8 and a 50.2 pass block grade, all kind of went down. Allowed no sacks, but had 8 hits allowed and 28 hurries. Then in his final year with the 49ers, only played 775 snaps, had an offensive grade of 65.4, a run block grade of 68.9, and a pass block grade of 60.5. So pretty much career highs for the most part for him in the grade department. Allowed 1 sack, 4 hits, and 20 hurries. So by far his best season, but didn't play as many snaps in this past season. So a little concerning. Hopefully he's not really injury prone, considering as you can see from 2022 to 2024, his snaps slightly decreased, especially from 2023 to 2024. But all his snaps did come from the left guard position. And kind of looking at the grades, it's a lot of money. There were no big surefire free agents like it was last year. Kind of have to temper expectations in that front. Josh Jacobs was pretty much sweet. That's a very good running back. Glad to sign him. Xavier McKinney was the top dude where we figured he'd be a monster, and he was, but there's no real surefire player in this offseason. So Goody has a good track record when signing free agents, so we'll see how this plays out. Doesn't look too great on paper, but we'll see how they fit with the Packers and how they play out. Now, moving on to the second signing for the Packers. This is tweeted out by Tom Pelissero. He tweeted out that the Packers are signing former Raiders cornerback Nate Hobbs per source. It's a 4-year, $48 million deal, including $16 million guaranteed. And now Nate Hobbs is coming from the Raiders. I didn't know much about him, but according to Ryan Wood, he tweeted about him saying Nate Hobbs was a slot corner with the Raiders, but source said Expectation is he will play perimeter cornerback in the Packers secondary at 6 foot, 196 pounds with a 31.5 inch arms. Hobbs has the size to move outside. So it seems like they're signing mainly what was a slot cornerback and hoping he plays outside, which is going to be very interesting. It's kind of a little gray of how our cornerback room is currently going to sit. But if we're just to still focus on Nate Hobbs, for his RAS score when he came out of college, had a 9.61 RAS score, very high. Height of 5'11", weighed 196 pounds, bench pressed 17 times, 225 pounds, I believe it is. Vertical jump of 40.5 inches, so just jumps through the roof, and a broad jump of 11 feet and 3 inches. So dude can definitely jump. Not the fastest 40-yard time at a 4.48, but not the slowest. So he's going to have to require more technique in that scenario, but can definitely jump outside the gym. So that's really nice to see. Now going over onto the PFF side, he's mostly played a slot corner for most of his career. He's kind of bounced in as a box safety at times and a perimeter defender, but he's mostly played slot corner. So for his career in the NFL, he's played 1,662 snaps as a slot corner and 741 snaps as a boundary corner. And 500 of those snaps was actually in his second year. Otherwise, he's mostly played the slot position. So going through his PFF grades as a rookie, 80.1 defensive grade, pretty darn good. This is when he was actually with Rich Bisaccia, and this is about the only year where Rich Bisaccia actually knew him. So 80.1 defensive grade, 78.6 run defensive grade, 54.8 tackling grade, and a 78 coverage grade. Then kind of fell down, 60.9 defensive grade, a 75.1 run defense grade, and a 57-point run coverage grade. Went up a little bit in his third year, 69 defensive grade, 78.8 rush grade, and a 68.1 coverage grade. And then in his final year, 61.4 defensive grade, 62.1 run defense grade, and a 61.5 coverage grade. So kind of up and down season with the Raiders. It is the Raiders, so who knows how well he was actually utilized and coached. So hopefully this isn't entirely maybe like a Rich Bisaccia, because he's not entirely in my good graces considering how bad the special teams has been. But Keyshawn Nixon has actually been a decent corner for us. And also with Jeff Hafley, his specialty being in cornerbacks, I'm sure he's had a lot of say in this and probably saw a lot of things he liked and signed off in signing his corner. So hopefully Jeff Hafley can get the best out of Nate Hobbs. And so our cornerback room is a little bit gray. So like we signed a slot corner, and it, could be expectation he plays a slot corner because Keyshawn Nixon wants to try to be the number one corner, kick outside. Jair Alexander's most likely on his way out. And then, well, what happens with the second corner? Is Carrington Valentine going to get that? Because Eric Stokes is not going to come back with the team, most likely. And then, well, if you go that route, what happens to Javon Bullard? Does he play safety? Because Evan Williams and X were really good combo. You had Javon Bullard, who was very great at the slot position when playing, and he kind of settled in very well there. Do you kick our new corner, Nate Hobbs, to the outside, opposite of Keyshawn Nixon? That would be a bit ironic considering we signed two corners from the Raiders as slot corners to be outside, but could be a thing. So a little bit gray over here on the defensive back room. So it's going to be interesting to watch what happens as the offseason progresses. And what if in the off chance we don't trade away Jair? What happens then? Slim chance, but still, he hasn't been traded. He's still a Green Bay Packer. So kind of have to keep that in mind as well. And so these aren't probably the top tier names that everyone knows. And it's like, we got a great player. Some question of how it's going to fit with the team. Not so much Aaron Banks, but definitely in Nate Hobbs, trying to figure out how that defensive secondary is going to look. But there's still a lot of time in the offseason to kind of figure this out. But it's kind of been a lackluster free agency if you think about it, because hopefully we're trying to get a receiver. That hasn't happened. Definitely a pass rusher. That hasn't happened. That is definitely a big need for us, it felt like, coming into this offseason. But so far, as of right now, we haven't signed one or come to a verbal agreement. But there is still time. Goody can cook in this time frame. He has in the past. So I do still have a lot of faith in Goody. Now, lastly, besides the two players that we did sign, there is one player that was an unrestricted free agent, and he has officially signed with another team, and that is TJ Slaton. Tom Pelissero tweeted this out. Source, former Packers defensive tackle TJ Slaton headed to the Bengals on a 2-year, $15.1 million deal. So that officially, come Wednesday, if he officially signs on the dotted line for the Bengals, he will no longer be with the Green Bay Packers, which, once again, kind of worrisome on that defensive line. Yes, there's Carl Brooks and all that, but still we need a lot better pass rushers on this defensive line than what we saw last year. But just coming out with an update of the free agent movement coming out with the Packers. 2 players signed, 1 officially lost. We'll see how day 2 trends for the Packers. But let me know what you think down in the comments. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and as always, go Pack Go.